Hello buddy, this is Purge bringing you guys a first-person replay commentary. This is going to be an Omniknight game. It is the most requested hero on my forums in the Choose the Next Hero for Purge to Play thread. If you guys want to vote for the next heroes to play, all you got to do is make an account on my website and then click the link down below and it'll bring you to the place where you can vote. You can vote on the right side. You can just choose 5 heroes and then it adds them up. So the top hero right now is Omni at 163, then we have Wind Ranger at 139 and Morphling at 138, followed by TA at 132. Lots of cool heroes that I actually like a lot coming up. So Omni as a hero is not super common in the pro scene. The hero is fairly popular in pubs, has a huge win rate in pubs, and is seen as kind of the bane of pubs because you can combo with OD. Well, that's what I did in my solo queue game. This was a solo MMR game where I played Omniknight support. I was at like 57.08 MMR when I started this game, and the average MMR I think it was just it was like 5.5, something like that. So it was a fairly high level game considering US servers. So yeah, let's hop into the Dota buff section again. I am sponsored by Dota buff, but of course we get a lot of interesting and important information out of going here. So he is 33rd most popular hero in pubs. He has an insanely high 60% win rate across the board. To go over his skills really quick, Purification, you cast it on an ally unit or creep. It heals them for up to 360 HP, and it does an AoE of 260 radius that does pure damage with the same amount that it does in terms of heal. It doesn't pierce spell immunity, so it won't affect magic immune enemies. And if your allies are also magic immune, then you can't cast Purification on them. It's impossible to heal somebody that's magic immune. So the biggest thing that you guys need to notice on Purification is it's amazing for trading on your opponents or with your carries when allies are nearby. So comboing Omniknight, he works really well with a lot of heroes just because of his skills, but it's also important to have some heroes that combo well with his Purification by the fact that they're melee. So one great example that I had this game, I had a Purge on my team. So that means whenever he hooks somebody and he ultis somebody, I can just cast Purification on my Purge and then it'll do 360 pure damage to the heroes that he has hooked that are within pretty close melee range of him. The cooldown is very low at 10 seconds. It's pretty mana expensive at 160, so you will need a Soul Ring or an Arcane Boots to support this, but Purification is an amazing ability. Other than the fact that it combos really well with some heroes, like Weaver, for example, he's invis, you can Purify Weaver to do damage to other heroes. Another really good example, really good point about Purification, does pure damage. So most spells are reduced by magic resistance, and all heroes except for Visage, I believe, and Meepo has a slightly higher magic resistance. They have a base magic resistance of 25%. So every 100 points that you do with magic damage actually only does 75 once it hits the hero. So that's why when you use Finger of Death sometimes on heroes it doesn't kill them when they have less than 600 HP, for example. The way Purification and Pure works is that the Pure isn't reduced by anything. The only thing it's stopped by is a magic immunity. So if we think about how much damage Purification actually does, it's massive. And to figure that out, what we're going to do is multiply Purification by 0.75. Is that right? Let me think, because we can do 75. I'm going to pause and figure this out. Okay, this one took me less than 3 hours to figure out. If you're calculating how much damage magic does, you take the amount of magic damage dealt, and then you multiply it by the remaining HP after magic resistance. So if you have 25% magic resistance and you're doing 100 nuke, you multiply that 100 by 0.75 to get 75. If you want to do the opposite of that, you divide by 0.75. So that means if we want to calculate how much Purification actually does compared to a magic nuke, assuming it did magic damage, we would take 360. I'm just using a calculator here, and I'm dividing by 0.75, which I think gives me 480. Okay, wrong remembrance. So basically, for a nuke to do as much damage as Purification does offensively, it would have to do 480 magic damage, which is pretty close to what, level 1 Laguna Blade or something like that. Very comparable damage. It's amazing. 10-second cooldown. It does that much damage offensively. It's a huge nuke. And the reason is because it's Omniknight's only source of damage. So in terms of damage potential, Omniknight gives very little. In terms of heal and survivability, he gives a lot. But don't forget that this damage is huge. And the only reason I'm focusing so much on Purification is because a lot of people use this skill wrong. They use it just for the heal. But you need to heal somebody while it also does damage for it to give maximum benefit. Because imagine 2 heroes trading, and trading is really important in Dota. I can go back to this while I talk about this. Trading is really important in Dota. When you have 2 heroes hitting each other, the victor is usually the person that does more damage. But the reason that heals like Dazzle's heal are so important, or Purification are so big, because let's say I'm trading with my opponent and I'm doing about 1-for-1 damage with right clicks, and then I'm missing a bunch of HP and I use Purification. Not only does it give me 360 HP, which is already a huge advantage over my opponent, but it also does 360 pure damage to him. So it ends up being a 720 damage point swing between yourself and them. Same thing with Dazzle. It heals you while also doing damage to your opponent. It's really, really important and effective. So when you are trading with people, make sure that unless it's going to get a kill or you don't really need the heal, that you take some damage before you use Purification. That way you get double value out of the skill. If you're not doing that, you're not getting as much value out of the mana. That's a very important aspect about Omniknight. Okay, back to the other skills. Talked enough about Purification. By the way, it does hit invisible people. That's the last thing I'm going to say. I swear to God. Your second skill is called Repel. This basically gives your ally a BKB, or magic immunity, for 6 to 12 seconds. No matter what, this will have a downtime of 2 seconds unless you get an Octarine core, but you shouldn't be able to farm that. So you'll probably never encounter that scenario in most cases. So it just makes your allies magic immune. You can cast on yourself, you can cast on your allies, you can cast on your opponents. The only time you'd ever want to cast on your opponents is pretty much if it does debuff some things like runes. So for example, if somebody picks up a DD, you might want to repel them because it removes the DD. Or if they pick up a haste, you could remove the haste from them. That's one of the few times you'd ever want to repel your opponent. There's not a lot of cases that you would ever want to repel them because then your allies can't stun them, for example. But using repel on your opponents can be very useful. Other things that repel does, obviously, it stops orbs from Viper, from OD, things like that are really good. It stops your ally from getting stunned. It does remove some debuffs, such as Track, for example, I think it would remove. It would remove things like Urn of Shadows. It removes weak disables, weak nukes, like weak status debuffs, but it doesn't remove strong ones. So whereas Abaddon has a stun that, or has a shield that removes stuns, Repel doesn't do that. If you get roared or stunned and then you repel the person that got roared afterwards, it'll stop magic damage that they take until the repel runs out, but it won't remove their debuff. So it can be useful to use it after a stun, but it's better to use it before the stun lands in almost all cases. So that's how repel works. The major counter to repel is Diffusal Blade, because it can remove repel, obviously. Diffusal Blade is really good against repel. Is there any other hero? Shadow Demon's ultimate can remove repel. That's another example of a purge effect. So purges are very good against repel. It's the biggest counter against Omniknight. So usually you don't want to pick Omniknight when you're against a hero that's guaranteed going to buy Diffusal Blade, like Spectre or Phantom Lancer, or sometimes even a Juggernaut can very easily pick up a Diffusal Blade mid-game and then counter your repel. So that's all kind of problems that you deal with repel. Last thing to say about repel is make sure if somebody's really in trouble, if somebody gets initiated on, it's almost always better to heal first and then repel. If you repel first, then you can't cast Purification on them because they're magic immune. So it's better to purify and then repel in almost all cases, unless there's going to be follow-up nukes or follow-up damage that would kill them in the time that it takes for you to cast the heal, followed by the repel. Your third skill is called Degen Aura. This gives an aura and an AoE around your hero of 350 radius. It's pretty big. It lowers movement speed and attack speed. This is by far your least important skill when you're playing support. You definitely don't want to max this first. If you're playing a core role, like a farming core, you sometimes will max this early to mess around with your opponents or to give you chase abilities. But as a support, in the early game, you should probably never get more than one skill point of this. And there are some situations where you don't get one skill point, but this game I got one skill point and I used it very effectively, and I'll show you guys how that works. Your ultimate is called Guardian Angel. It basically makes everyone in an AoE around you immune to physical damage. It used to give you HP regen, but Omniac got nerfed there. But what it does is for 6 to 8 seconds in a radius of 600, you can't take physical damage at all. And that includes cleave, by the way, because cleave is physical damage. It's not pure. It's physical that ignores magic immunity. I looked that up the other day and asked people on Twitter about it, so that was cool to find out. But it also does stop cleave, so it's kind of good against Sven as well to make your allies immune. If you get an Aghanim Scepter, which can be really good, it gives Guardian Angel to everything on the map on your team, including creeps, including towers, and it still doesn't give them regen then, but it does affect buildings as well. It can be like a glyph, or you can be anywhere on the map and it will glyph them or give them Guardian Angel immunity to physical. One small thing, if you Guardian Angel first and then you cast Repel on them, Repel will remove the Guardian Angel because it's, again, it's a weak buff, and by weak it just means that it can be removed by a Diffusal Blade. So if you ever want to Guardian Angel somebody, you should usually repel first and then Guardian Angel. And that goes for yourself. Repel yourself first and then Guardian Angel. And then you're actually immune to all points of damage unless you get Diffusal Blade, I think. Because this would, I guess there might be some sources of pure damage that go through magic immunity. like Doom, for example, but there's not a lot of cases where they'll be able to damage you through that. In most cases, Repel plus Guardian Angel makes somebody invulnerable. Keep in mind it is a radius around your hero, so you have to be a little bit close to them. I actually use this skill slightly bad this game. I had a couple misses. So that's all of your skills. As you can see, there's not much damage. There's a lot of things that keep your allies alive, and that's why Omniknight has such a big win rate, because there's very few heals that are in Dota. And heals are something that most players don't expect. Like, even a wand seems ultra significant with the few charges that it has. It is significant. But against other heroes, having a heal, the ability to completely turn around a fight, you think you're winning, and all of a sudden somebody stays alive. They get healed for 360, they get repelled afterwards, and then the fight's looking real bad at that stage. Heals completely change team fights, and that is why Omniknight has such a big win rate, because people just don't expect it. Not to mention the free BKB the repel provides. By hitting mid-game with Omniknight and having repel, what it lets you do is it lets your carry go for a damage item in the mid game instead of a magic immunity item like BKB. So in my case, my OD went the standard build. He got a Midas because I zoned for him, but we'll ignore the Midas part. He went Treads, he went Blink, he went Drum, and then he went a Hex because he didn't need a BKB there in the mid game team fights because I could repel him. So he gets to skip that the magic immunity item, and instead buys an item that allows him to just solo kill all the time. So it really helps him a lot in terms of scaling into the late game because he continues to kill enemies and does well in terms of getting kills. So repel is mostly broken for that reason, because the ability allows your carries to not have to buy BKB, and you can win a lot of early game fights that you shouldn't win otherwise because of repel. It's a very good ability, and there's not that much that counters it. It's really just Purge and Diffusal Blade in most cases. So those things aren't that popular, or they aren't that common. So alright, very common. You'll see him in the safe lane as a support. He has also played in the off lane. I played him as a support this game. I think the off lane version of Omniknight is better, but you also have to remember that does very little. It's very easy to get zoned if you're off lane Omniknight. You're not that fast at farming because you don't have the mana to spam Purification in the early game. And transitioning into mid-game teamfights is pretty weak if you don't have a hero that you can purify offensively on. If you're just standing around buffing allies, then you're basically playing support, and that's kind of wasting that potential that you got from the offlane. Even heroes like Earthshaker that aren't very strong in the offlane, in the mid-game situation, will eventually get a Blink Dagger and then really give some good teamfight presence that'll justify their levels in their solo lane. But Omniknight, in a lot of cases, is not a very good offlane hero unless he can pressure his opponents, and the only time that really happens is if it's like a dual lane of melee heroes, which will happen in your pub games, but in a higher rated game, that's almost never going to happen. So this is by far the best skill build on average, is to just max Purification by 7. The only difference that I would make is that I personally think that in most cases you should be getting Degen or at level 1, and that's because it helps you zone your opponent much more than Purification. If you look at your base, your starting int, it's awful. It's 17. This gives you a mana pool of around 200 and something. In fact, if I do the math, it will do 17 times 13 because you get 13 mana per int point. You have 221 mana at level 1, and Repel or Purification costs 100 mana. So you can cast maximum 2 Purifications at level 1, each one dealing 90 damage and healing for 90. So it's an awful heal per mana at level 1. It's really bad. By level 4, you're getting 2 heal per mana. At level 1, you're getting less than 1 heal per mana. Really inefficient. You don't want to cast Purification that much early. So the better thing to do is usually to grab Degen Aura, and if you can afford it, an Orb of Venom, and you use that to slow them by 10% with Degen, and 12% I believe with Orb of Venom, and this allows you to chase down your opponent. You actually have really high base armor at 5 armor, so you can actually zone quite well even without a stout shield. But the important thing, and your movement speed's decently high, and your base damage is also very good. But the important thing is that you have an ability to kite your opponents. If you don't have that, if they have a stun, they're always going to do more damage to you when trading than you do to them. So Degen Aura 1 skill point early is really important. I don't recommend maxing it because you need Repel maxed out later and you need Purification maxed out later. And by later, I mean the mid game. At that stage of the game, you'll be somewhere between level 7 and level 10. You need to have more more Repel levels then. It's very important to have a high duration in this. But that's how your mid game should go. The skill build's pretty good, but the only qualm again would be, I would say, Degen here. And then you would have to get 2 Purifications at 2, 3, Repel at 4, and then 5, 7. For Purification. So technically it would look like 2, 3, 5, 7, and this would look like 4 here, and then 8, 9, 10. Or it will actually be more like, yeah, it would be 8, 9, 10. So that's the best way to do it. You need Repel maxed out by 11, and you need Purification maxed out by 11, because level 11, it takes you a long time to hit level 12. So it's important to have those skills ready to go. Alright, with all of that said, you do max out Degen Aura later in the game, but you could get stats if you're really getting killed a lot, like if there's a Doombringer on the enemy team or something like that, but other than that, I would get Degen. Alright, your skills, or items, sorry. Soul Ring is almost mandatory. If you're having a really good early game and you can get fast arcane boots, you can do that too. But I generally only get arcane boots if I'm playing a core role and I'm having a really good game. If I'm playing a support, Soul Ring is almost always the purchase because it costs 800, and it gives you HP regen as well as mana, so it won't force you like arcane boots will to use purification to heal yourself constantly. Soul Ring will slightly offset that HP regen. So the Soul Ring build is very good. I actually, in most cases, I buy Soul Ring and arcane boots, because in a lot of cases you actually need more mana than just the Soul Ring, and to have a bigger mana pool is really important, and so that's very nice. If you buy Mechanism, you absolutely need arcane boots, especially because that will eventually turn into a Guardian Greaves. And the best thing about Guardian Greaves is that when you activate it, it removes negative debuffs from your hero. So that means if you're silenced, you can use Guardian Greaves to remove the silence and then mech your team. It's super important that you get this if you're against a common Orchid carrier like Queen of Pain, because it removes that. Super important, because otherwise if they initiate and start a team fight and they silence you and then go on the rest of your team, then you're standing there for 5 seconds not being able to cast your heal or your repel. All you would be able to do was maybe mech, but having Guardian Greaves would allow you to cast things. So if you're against a silencer, for example, and there's going to be global silence, you have to get a Guardian Greaves, basically. This game, I didn't purchase a mech because I was playing a support. I didn't really feel as justified getting a team fight on them, and I felt like my cores were doing well, so I prioritized with keeping them at full HP at all times and just keeping myself alive. So I went Soul Ring, Arcane Boots, Wand, and I also got an Urn. Urn is not seen here, and I had a lot of other potential Urn carriers on my team, but Urn is nice because if an enemy hero dies, I now can use that Urn to heal my ally for 400 HP, rather than putting Purification on cooldown just to heal my ally. It's better to use Purification and save it for those really tense moments where they're taking damage from heroes. So I liked having Urn. Also, it does offensive damage. That can be nice as well since your hero is a bit weak on damage. And it gives you mana regen over time. I thought it was useful this game. Either the Pudge or the Earth Spirit could have purchased it. I bought it instead, and the Earth Spirit bought the Mechanism because he was offlane. And I'm totally fine with that. Vlad's can be purchased some games. Sanji and Yasha, don't look at this. This is basically carry Omniknight. The way that I've played him here and the way that you should be playing Omniknight is not damage. It's not the right way to play Omniknight. There's much better heroes to do that, but if you guys want to dick around, you can't do that, in which case get S and Y. Sometimes you'll get Vlad's, but the reason this is probably here is because I carry Omniknight games. And finally, Aghanim Scepter is sometimes built as well, but it's very expensive, it takes a while to get to it, and only sometimes is it worth it. I think usually there's better items you can buy, because you could get like a Force Staff and a Glimmer Cape with this, or you could get an Aether Lens and something else, for example. This game I bought Aether Lens. Aether Lens is really good on Omniknight, actually, because the cast range on your abilities are fairly short. They're around 500, 600 units, something like that. And in a lot of cases, if you're the squishy Omniknight support, you need to be aware that your opponents are going to look for you and they're going to try to kill you at the start of the fight. Because if they kill the Omniknight, you can't cast Repel on your allies, you can't cast heals. It's a lot easier for them to kill your cores if you're dead. So they're almost always going to want to initiate on you. And if you have an Aether Lens, your cast range is 200 units longer, which means you can sit farther away when you cast your heals and your Repel. And that's ultra important. In a lot of cases, that means you might not get hit by a Ravage when the team fight comes. You might not get hit by Black Hole, for example, when the Enigma blinks in Black Holes, because you're going to be 200 units away. You're not going to be hit by RP, things like that. Those are the kind of abilities that Aether Lens is really going to pay off for. It also increases your spell damage amp by 8%, but that's not a big deal. Basically means you're going to do slightly more pure damage with Purification. The main thing is that it increases your mana pool. It gives you some regen over time, which is kind of nice, and the cast range is super big. So Aether Lens, very good item on Omniknight. But if nobody else is building a mech, you should probably build a mech instead. Same cost. Obviously, if you have mech but no arcane boots, then it costs more because you kind of need arcane boots to deal with mech in some cases. But Mechanism is also a really good item to have. If your opponents are very burst damage heavy, I recommend something more like Mechanism. If they're more like team fight, damage over time, then maybe Aether Lens is better to sit back and keep your team alive. Okay, so that's all the items basically. Again, Orb of Venom in the early game, that's about it. Observer Wards, Sentry Wards. You will be buying support items. You probably won't really need a smoke. You're going to be a bit starved on items. Excuse me, as a whole. But okay, here's your good against. Good against Phantom Assassin, because she's a melee hero, and if she goes on you, you can do pure damage to her, which is really dangerous. You reduce her attack speed and movement speed, and you can repel yourself or others, which means that she won't be able to slow them or blink onto them aggressively. Oh, I didn't know PA was 4th most popular here. That's interesting. Lifestealer, you're good against. Oh, the other reason you're good against these top 3 heroes is because they do almost entirely physical damage. And if you just pop Guardian Angel, then those heroes do no damage for 6 seconds. That's a pain in the ass for those guys, basically. Kind of forces them to get Diffusal Blade, but not really any of these 3 heroes want to buy Diffusal Blade. Wraith King can stun people, but you can repel them. But again, he's melee, so Purify is really good, not to mention your Degen Aura is going to make kiting him a lot easier. Dealing with him is going to be easier that way. I'm a little surprised to see that you have an advantage versus Spectre. I would have thought Spectre was better against you because of the fact that he has a Diffusal Blade, but if he does go on somebody and you throw a Purify down, it's going to do a lot of damage to Spectre. And also, oh, that's probably the reason why, is because Spectre, despite Diffusal Blade removing things like Repel, if you have Repel on a hero, then Spectre's second and third abilities actually do nothing. His Desolate, pure damage, and his third skill... I can't remember what it's called. His third skill, the one that reflects damage that he takes, won't work if somebody's repelled. So if you get a carry that does a lot of physical damage or does a lot of single target damage and you repel them, they can very easily kill the Spectre in a 1v1 fight, assuming they're equal in farm. So that's probably why we're seeing an advantage against Spectre, most likely. Chaos Knight, similar thing, AoE damage, Slark, you can keep people alive, and the Purify will hit Slark no matter if he's invis or ultimated or whatever. Legion Commander, it's pretty obvious these heroes need to do burst damage, and Omni keeps people alive. Now, here's your bad against Shadow Demon, 6% advantage. That is huge. I feel like this is largely influenced by bad players. Oops, I didn't mean to click on that. Because I feel like bad players usually aren't going to be able to deal with Omni very well, but if you have a Shadow Demon, he can deal with it. Again, the way you deal with it is you just ult the guy that gets repelled, and now repel's done for the whole team fight. Shadow Demon would still be able to ult, obviously, but I didn't think it would be quite that high of an advantage. I would generally say there's other heroes that are better against Omniknight. Ones that get things like Orchid, for example. Enigma's up there because of teamfight ultimates, obviously. Lone Druid, pretty good at just beating him down eventually, and the Repel doesn't do much against Lone Druid. And heroes like this, he can still Purify, Repel, stuff like that. Can't really kill IO if you're him. And you're also very bad against Enchant, because Enchant will do pure damage regardless of the fact of somebody being either repelled and taking no magic damage, or being Guardian Angel and taking no physical, because obviously her ulti will still do pure damage through both of those things. So that's probably why we're seeing Enchant up here. So basically Enchantress is really popular right now, so that's probably another reason we're not seeing any Omniknight. He's just not very good versus Enchantress. So great strength gain, it's okay agility gain, and kind of okay int gain, so you need to make up for the low int. And that's just about everything that we need to talk about in terms of Omniknight. We can talk over, or hop over to the hero meta statistics. He has a 57% win rate above 5k, which is really, really high. I'm actually a little surprised people don't abuse Omniknight anymore in terms of games. And if we look at my heroes here, I'm gonna go Omni, and I have a 66.6% win rate over 24 games of my lifetime of playing Omni. But I play a lot of heroes kind of similar to him, so I don't feel that out of place playing him. All right, black screen for just a second. We can hop into the game. Okay, now now that I talked about all the good things about Omni, I can talk about his weaknesses basically. Your weaknesses are very centered around the early game. It's basically the first 10 minutes are where Omni has a lot of trouble, and it mostly is the fact that he has kind of a bad laning stage. He can be bullied very easily by ranged heroes. He doesn't have a stun, so he can't trade extremely well against some heroes. Like, if there's an offlane Nature's Prophet with Treants, I can't do anything against that. The Treants will just keep hitting me. Maybe I would get a Stout Shield and then run at the Nature's Prophet. That's probably the best solution, but it's not a very good solution. They repicked the Brood, thank God, because if there was a Brood, I was like, oh, I can't play Omni, and then you can't play against a Brood Mother very well, because you'll never be able to kill the Brood. You wouldn't be able to deal with the spiders very well. I picked this a little bit early, but as of this point, Omni's quite good against these three heroes. They're very nuke-based. The other problem is that if they're doing a dual lane, Omni's kind of bad, because at that stage, he doesn't contribute very much to the aggressive dual lane, unless you're with a carry that is melee and will be able to close the gap and get into melee range, in which case Omni is okay. If you have like a carry, I don't know, Juggernaut maybe, or carry Chaos Knight, or carry Weaver, something like that to combo with Omniknight is really good. Now this game, I think it was a really, really good Omni game. We had an OD who needs magic immunity. We basically had two tanky cores that if they stay alive, they do tons of damage, and if they're not stunned, they do tons of damage. Both DP and OD are great for that. They're really, really good for that. And our other two heroes are both melee, actually. It's a Pudge and it's a Earth Spirit. Both very good for Omni, because both can essentially get a hero to be next to them. Pudge does it by hooking. Earth Spirit does it by rolling in and getting on top of somebody. In both cases, my Purify is really effective, because I can then heal those people and do damage to their opponents. So I think this was a really sick lineup for Omniknight, in my opinion. I was really happy with the picks we had. Now, you might be a little curious about my starting items. I got a Courier. I believe I bought one ward, not two. No, I think I did buy two wards. No, I think what it was is I got, I think the Pudge bought the Courier, and I was able to buy not buy the courier. So yeah, Pudge purchased the courier as the other support, and me, I purchased the 2 wards. So I got a little bit extra gold because of this, and I was able to buy an enchanted mango, which I think helped out a bit in the early game. Mango is pretty nice on Omni because if you're ever out of mana, you're completely out of mana. So having a little bit of burst heal is good there. Not to mention the HP over time is quite nice. I made kind of a significant mistake here by not putting my ward down, I think. Oh no, I did. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the game right before it. Excuse me. I warded basically the high ground pit. And you might be a little confused about it, like why would I ward there? The reason is because it helps me deal with the offlane hero. And I didn't really know who the offlane was this game. In fact, I didn't really notice until they came to the lane. The Earthspirit did a great job blocking here. He got the guaranteed block in. So, but my goal is basically just to zone my offlane opponent as much as I can. If I can zone my opponent, then it helps me win the lane. It helps OD get farm. And because it's an invoker, I'll just talk about some support stuff really quick. I'll have to first press play, and then I have to go this, and I have to pause. Okay, so let's look at the 2 items, right? When you're playing a support, the most important thing is to zone your opponent. Keep them out of, assuming it's a solo hero and you're capable of doing this, the most important thing that you can do is make sure that the offlaner doesn't get experience. And the easiest way to do that is to run at them and hit them. If they can't trade with you as effectively as you can trade with them, then that means that you're always going to be able to keep them away from the lane. And if your carry is good enough to keep creep equilibrium, then you guarantee that this guy never gets experience. And if you do this, this guy gets completely gimped. And this is why Invoker offlane is so fucking bad, is because if people do it right, the Invoker gets nothing and he accomplishes nothing. And this is why offlane Invoker probably works at your lower MMR games, because people don't zone the Invoker properly, then he gets levels, and then he transitions into a mid sort of role and ends up having a huge impact. If Invoker was able to better get experience in the offlane, he'd be great every single game as an offlaner. But the reality is that he has 1 armor because he bought some stats. He doesn't really have a good spell at level 1. And his movement speed is awful. With the degen aura going active here, he's running at 252. So I have about a boots advantage against him with just my degen aura. So regardless of this fact, let's look at items then. So we know that he trades worse than I do when he's hitting me and I'm hitting him. He does 56 damage on average, as do I, because he has exhort orbs and he's got quite a few right click items. So with that said, I have 4 armor advantage. So that means if we're both hit each other, excluding the fact that I reduce his attack speed by 10, I'm going to do more damage to him than he's going to do to me. Right off the bat. That's assuming we're standing still and both just attacking each other. Now, he gets slightly more attacks on me because he's a ranged hero. He can obviously stay out of melee range in most cases, and I'm only going to be able to hit him about twice for every 3 to 4 times he hits me. But the important thing is that if you look at his items, he doesn't have enough regen. He only has 1 tango and a fairy fire. I have 6 tangos. So I have an extra 230 HP than he has, and I have 4 extra armor, which means I'm going to block an extra about 20% physical damage, which is a huge amount. So I'm going to take less damage from his right clicks. I have more regen than him. Once I hit 2, I'm also going to have purification, which gives me further heals. So basically, he doesn't have nearly as much regen as I do, and I have a movement speed advantage and an armor advantage. And I also have an enchanted mango, by the way. So over the course of like 3 minutes, this gives me 2.5 tangos worth. So the mango is also kind of nice. So I have way more regen than him. If he came to lane with a Sal and a Tango, he could actually zone me appropriately, but he didn't bring that because he's an idiot, and he bought a Mantle of Intelligence instead. He actually has the money to be able to buy a Sal, but he chose not to for some dumb reason. I have no idea why, because he wanted to bring himself a No Talisman or something. So this is the stuff that you need to look at. As soon as you get to lane, you have to think, and I mean, maybe you don't know the heroes. I know the heroes decently well. I know about what their armors are. I know about how hard they hit. I know about how hard I'm going to trade with them. But I can walk to this lane and I say, Invoker offlane. He should never get experience because it's a freaking Invoker. And as soon as you let him get level 3, then all of a sudden he beats you. And that's the other important thing. If I go and pull right now and start a pull, then Invoker sits here and he gets at least 1 creep wave worth of experience and he might hit level 2. And then if I get a pull through, maybe I hit 2, but I might still be 1. And then I'm trying to zone a level 2, potentially level 3 Invoker when I'm level 1. So the most important thing to do as a support, after all that trading stuff that I just talked about, is make sure that you keep him level 1 as long as possible. It's okay if you're 1-2, because most supports can deal with an offlane hero level 1, but you got to keep them level 1, and my carry has to not push the wave. This guy was like a 5.7k player as well, so he was totally fine at keeping the wave pushed towards us. And in fact, if he gets the wave more pushed towards us, like anywhere in this area, that means that there's more space for Invoker to run. Because right now, I'm a little bit zoned by the creeps. If I'm anywhere in this area and I right-click the Invoker, these creeps will aggro to me and I'll mess up creep equilibrium. So basically, I have to stand in an area of over here, and anywhere right here. There's not a lot of space for me to chase the Invoker down basically right now. So I had to take a lot of right clicks because of the OD not blocking as well as the Invoker did. But luckily, because he counter pushed and now this wave should push, I will eventually be able to zone him better. So that's everything that I need to say about zoning. This is how you need to play Omniknight level 1. I get it that he's a melee hero. I get that he doesn't have a disable. He doesn't have a ranged nuke. But you have to zone your opponent. And sometimes you have to do that at the cost of taking damage. If you guys ever watched Thraction Slack's stream, he starts with a Soul Ring recipe and he begs his carry to get like the first 4 or 3 last hits or something. Because he starts like Sage's Mask, Soul Ring recipe, 1 Tango or something like that. He begs to get the fast Soul Ring so that he can use it to sustain for the rest of the game. But the problem is that Purification sucks at level 1. It's only good at level 2, which means you have to be level 3. So before level 3, having a Soul Ring is just not very useful. It's better to have a Stout Shield and Brown Boots with a little bit of bait regen from the start of the game than it is to have a Soul Ring. By far, it's a huge, way more beneficial, because then you can actually chase your opponents down. With a Soul Ring, it doesn't do shit. It gives you a tiny bit of regen. If you activate the Soul Ring, you're doing 90 HP heal, so you're not even offsetting the heal, the amount that you take. It's just not very good. Don't go fast Soul Ring, guys. It's not good. If you randomed or something, you have a ton of extra gold. Okay, buy a Soul Ring recipe to save your courier from a trip, but you shouldn't be stealing last hits to prioritize your opponent's gold gain. So what I'm basically doing right now is I'm just trying to keep this Invoker out of experience range. And I'm going to run up and I'm going to hit him twice, and then I'm going to run back and let him hit me twice. And when I run at him, he's going to hit me at least once here. I was just sitting back here. I maybe didn't need... Oh yeah, I know why I backed here. I backed up because I knew the creep wave is coming. Whenever the creep wave comes, you have to run away again. And then when the creep wave is back again, then you go right back to hitting people. Boom, boom, hit him twice, run away, because now I'm about in tower range. He's going to hit me like 3-4 times total, but that's fine. I've got more tangos than him. I've got an enchanted mango. I'm healing more than he is. Again, running at him, hitting him a couple times. I could hit him 3 times this time. That's great, but it's going to cost him tangos. He's using tangos this whole time. I'm using tangos this whole time, but he has less tangos than I do. And because I had this ward in this position, it helps spot where the offlaner is so I can better zone them. So now I know that he's probably going to farm that camp right there. He's not going to farm it fast because he's a frickin' Invoker, but I guarantee that he's going there to farm that camp. So as a support, I have 2 options. I could either go back and pull because he left the lane, or it can be an asshole and I can go right click him. And I'm doing this because I know he can't jungle this very well. He can't efficiently jungle this camp. It's just fact. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit him. And he's going to be like, why the hell is Omniknight here? This is really weird. Omniknight shouldn't be here. And I wanted to pull this left because I thought maybe he was going to try to stack it. So I attacked the creeps. That cost me kind of a lot of HP. Maybe it was a mistake. But I'm basically just trying to limit his experience gain and his ability to farm. This is slightly dangerous because if the support's TP, then I'm out of position and all I have is my degen aura. But the reality is that I'm doing essentially the same thing that I would be doing if he was still in lane. I'm trying to limit the amount of experience that he gains. This part is really dangerous because then I'm taking neutrals and him. So I kind of lost a lot right here. And in fact, at this point, I'm really losing the trade. It was really unfortunate that those aggroed to me because then I think he killed that small creep and I didn't get the experience from it. But any creeps that he kills that I'm within experience range, we would trade it. So this is another way that I can hurt him. He still doesn't know I'm here, by the way, because the tower vision is being blocked by these 3 trees. So he doesn't quite know where I am. I walked down to check. I saw there was a bounty in there. The only reason that I basically can't continue zoning him is because I'm out of regen. So I have to be a little careful. I'm checking to see if the DP wanted the rune, but she was actually Bottle Crane, so I opted to pick up the bounty rune. And now I saw that he was very, very low. And he's just, again, low because he's been tanking neutrals this whole time. And now I'm going to see if I can kill him. And because I did pure damage, it actually kills him. So you might be like, wow, this is a really weird example of a game where you got a kill that you shouldn't have. And I shouldn't have gotten that kill. You're definitely right about that. I'm going to start this off with a heal because it does damage to him and damage to me. But I probably should have ran one away. And I bought boots with the flying cur. If he hit me again, I was going to go into Roche, but then I thought he wasn't going to hit me, so then I decided to back. I've got 2 HP and I asked my OD to come and asked my OD to Astral Imprison him. If he Astral Imprisons the puck, then I'm all good. If I would have just ran directly right, I think I would have lived there, actually. I slightly messed up. I was like spamming and telling the OD, I was like, banish him, banish him. But then I clicked on him and he didn't actually have Astral yet, and that's because he's free farm, so he felt like he probably didn't need to, which I kind of understand. It's okay. Either way, I killed the Invoker. I made space. The mid just left his lane for like 45, 50 seconds or something like that. I made heroes rotate. That means DP gets more farm mid. That means Puck gets less last hits. Yeah, he killed me, and he got how much gold out of it? He He got 281 gold out of it, whatever. I got 261 out of killing the Invoker, and Invoker lost his gold, because I doubt he bought out in time. I got really lucky on the pull here. I also bought out before I died, so that was really, really good. I should have bought the Flying Courier earlier, like that was a pretty big mistake, but... At this point, you transition into pulling. I think I did a pretty good job zoning the Invoker. I have no idea where he's going to farm now, but he's going to be probably tilted for most of the game, and he's not really going to know where to farm. So I'm going to start pulling to try to guarantee that I get some level and gold advantage, because now I need to start prioritizing my levels and prioritizing things like Mech or Arcane Boots or Soul Ring. In a lot of cases, you might have games where you do what I just did, and you might do it for too long. Like, it's 5 minutes in, I'm just hitting level 3 now. And that's kind of dangerous, because I need to make sure that I'm at least being competitive with my enemy supports and that I'm hitting level 6 at a reasonable time. 6 isn't ultra important, but 5 is pretty important, because it gives me a level of repel, and it gives me 3 levels of purify. So my goal now is basically just pull as much as I can. If I pull as much as I can, then I can get free levels that aren't impeding on my OD's gain, and it's also getting me gold as well. So I probably should have pulled through here. I just attacked this a lot, and then at this point I was like, I could pull through, or I could just kill the wave. Looks like I did pull through, but I remember I did this one wrong. I ran way too far, and I needed to stop moving right here, because the creep wave was actually a lot more shallow. It was more towards the opening than deep into the camp, and because of that, it had to go farther from the Wildkin to come to it. So I basically made a big mistake by not running that in earlier. I was going to grab this for sure, because a new rune is spawning in 5 seconds. This is the 4-minute rune. So I grabbed the DD. I wait to see what spawns down here. It's a bounty rune. I'm pinging it just to see if anybody wants it, but he grabbed a regen, so I waited way too long to grab this. I should have just grabbed it right away and then gone to jungle, because I did have a DD. If I have a DD, then I'm farming much faster, so I should have instantly grabbed the bounty 13 seconds ago, or 10 seconds ago at least, and immediately gone to the large camp to jungle. Now, I don't have that much regen, so doing this is just a little bit dangerous. But once I take about 180 pure damage, then I will use the heal, because then it heals me and does damage. And then I'm going to clean up the camp here. So this is maybe a mistake, but it did also get me about 100 gold. So, hard to say. I definitely don't want to purify again here. That would have forced me to use my clarity potion. I also do get level 4 out of this. You might also be thinking, why aren't I just splitting experience with my OD? Well, that's because now my OD gets extreme amounts of experience. And if we just look at the levels really quick here, this is my OD who's basically been solo this whole game. We've got my DP that's been solo this whole game. And then we have a dual offlane Purge or Spirit that are both 4, and I'm playing support and I'm 4. If you compare our levels to our opponents, this is their offlaner, who's obviously an Invoker offlaner. I zoned him, he's had a shit game. Their other supports a 4, their other supports a 3, and their jugs a 5. The reason their levels are so bad is probably because their pulls got messed up a lot, because the dual offlane messed with them, and their carry's only a 5. So my OD is a 7. He's got Midas Respi. He's going to have a Midas very, very soon. So we have a really big level advantage over our opponents. I would assume our experience advantage is huge compared to them. And that's because they basically split one wave 3 ways. We split this wave 2 ways. I was doing pulling. I zoned the Invoker, so basically they got nothing from the offlane, and we did. That's pretty much why this is so offset, most likely. So that stuff makes a huge impact. I'm now buying my Soul Ring components. I got a Ring of Regen, just because I'm really low on HP. I don't really like buying this early. In most cases, whenever I buy a Ring of Regen early, it's a huge mistake, because the amount of payoff that it gives you is way less than the Sage's Mask in terms of mid-game capabilities and stuff. I wanted to gank the puck here since he was so low. I kind of wanted to dive, and now there was a smoke gank, so rather than... I should have TP'd a little bit earlier, but rather than walk through, I thought it would be a lot better if I just teleported. And I probably should have just cancelled it. His roll missed here. I just gave him a repel because I knew he was out of position, and if he got stunned, he could potentially die, so... Pudge missing a hook as well, so I basically just leave the lane. I didn't realize the TP was going to be so long, but it was like 3.5 second TP. If it was a 2.5, like the normal TP time, if I TP'd instantly as soon as I saw the heroes on the map, I probably could have saved him, and that would have been big, but I was late, and that's Death Prophet's first death. Either way, OD's still getting free from. At this stage, Invoker should be bottom. Invoker's messing up by not TPing bottom. If the creeps are at your tower, you definitely show up, so he kind of messed that up really bad. But we're getting bot rune. I'm now level 4. I've got every ability. Looking to see if Puck would come down here, but he chooses to back. I don't completely like my warder here. I feel like it's slightly a waste. I would rather have it at the cliff by Roche. That way my OD could see if there's heroes by the base. Spawn a TP scroll and a magic stick, but I messed it up a little bit. Again, I could also be aiming that gold towards something like the soul ring, but as long as you're a little careful with mana, you don't really need the soul ring that much. I mean, what did I have for regen this game? I had literally 1 clarity potion. I was hoping I could save that guy as well. I kept wasting TPs. This is really unfortunate. It's really hurt my levels. The Earth Spirit's almost 6. But I basically had 1 clarity potion. I had a mango. And I've used purification a couple times. And I've still not needed a soul ring yet. If you're just a little careful with your spells, if there's not a lot of action in your lane, basically, you don't need a lot of regen. So instead I opted to get a magic stick because it's 200 and completes my item. I was pretty happy with that. Wanted to pressure forward aggressively at this stage. Don't think he was 6 at this moment yet. Repel him because then he takes no damage from the Jug's Blade Fury. And I'm getting ready for a heal. Just did damage to the Juggernaut. Pretty good fight. We knew Puck was coming because our mid hero said Puck's going top. So now I'm just sitting around waiting to see if I need to repel the Earth Spirit or if I need to heal him, for example. Puck ended up not showing. We got Arcane Boots on 2 heroes, which was pretty nice. And then we had a little bit of a party here. That was cool. I was feeling good about that one. Could have maybe healed the Earth Spirit there before the second heal, but... And now I'm going to fly the Soul Ring out to myself. So I kind of like the potential to be here aggressively because... I'm sorry, Earth Spirit was almost 6. Now is how this worked. Maybe? I don't remember. Pudge came around the side and we saw that. I didn't want to show in the Coddle here because if he saw that I was there, he would start running. So I wanted to wait until our actual heroes that could get kills would be closer. I just wanted to repel him so he could ultimate, but actually he doesn't even have his ult, so... Miss-healed there a little bit, I think. Waiting to use my heal, depending on who needs it. And I basically just guaranteed that those guys all die there. That's all you gotta do, just use your skills accordingly. When you play Omniknight, you have to know how all the abilities work. That's probably the biggest barrier for the entry. The way that I used my skills was smart there, in most cases. The only thing I did poorly was that when I healed the Death Prophet, he wasn't within melee range of Puck. And because of that, we didn't do extra damage to Puck. Puck still died, and everything worked out, but I could have done that slightly better. I'm going to give him a little heal here, because he's missing quite a bit of HP. But even though I'm still level 5 at this stage, I feel pretty good. Hitting 6 is basically the glory area. Once you hit 6 on Omniknight, you're pretty darn set. And what I was aiming to do here would be repel the Pudge. And this is actually kind of a mistake, because it prevents me from healing him. If he hooks the Jug... Repel did not save him or anything there. I wanted to heal myself. I wish the Earth Spirit would have moved more aggressively there. If he did, we could have easily gotten the double kill there. I'm going to repel the Earth Spirit so that he can keep dropping boulders if he does have them. I'm just going to try to pick off the other heroes. Now I went a little bit too far. My wand did not save me there. But if the Earth Spirit would have positioned a little bit more aggressively with his hero, he killed the Jug fine, but he should have moved to the other heroes. If he was playing perfectly, he should expect my purification. I did purify him, but obviously he didn't get any extra damage there. Pudge actually isn't even 6 yet. That was his 6 though. So there's a lot of ways that I can use my ability. I can use Repel on the Earth Spirit to let him keep dropping boulders to prevent him from dying, since most of their team is Magic Nuke. The only one that isn't is Omni Slash, so they had a very counterable lineup with Omni here. And that was basically the point where I was like, do I get Urn? Because I felt like I needed a bit more regen. So I opted to purchase Urn. If you're wondering why I TP'd the bot lane, most of the time I don't recommend supports TP the safe lane, or TP to lanes after respawning, but I wanted to put a ward down because OD was likely going to continue farming in the safe area, and that means that I want to anticipate or see if he's getting ganked. So I'm warding based on that, basically. We're warding pretty defensively here. We do have a lot of aggressive heroes, but we also have some defensive ones as well. Our heroes kind of cover everything, actually. Our lineup just felt really good to me. So now I'm going to do some jungling. I slightly did that wrong because I used it before I was missing HP, but I was just trying to kill this as fast as possible, basically. pull up last hits and stuff. You guys are curious? Last hits are pretty low across the board, except for on my OD and my Death Prophet. They're insanely farmed. Both of them are doing really good. There's net worths as well. My net worth is pretty low. I am above the line and the coddle though. And that will finish my urn, which should give me 2 sources of mana regen. And I also got level 7 from that. Got a rune coming here. I think we thought there was a ward there. We thought Lion put it down. And just a little bit of a damage nuke there. 360 pure. Such an easy kill. That was all Earth Spirit. I think he pinged about the rune. Well, actually that was my ward kind of. We saw that the puck was waiting there, which meant that he was waiting for the ward. So that was kind of a nice kill that we got because of the ward. And I'm gonna go hang out mid now, I think. I saw my allies there. I can't just not purify this camp while I'm standing here because it's free farm. Should give me like 70 gold or something like that. Oh, more than that. 70, 80, 90 gold. It's pretty good. Oh, that's where he put the ward. It was actually right here instead. I think I actually did. I placed the ward awful because I thought for sure it'd be right here. He stood here and he stopped moving, so I was like, okay, he put a ward there. So I walked all the way around and I put a sentry right on top, which is embarrassing now because it wasn't actually there. Which what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go free camera. I doubt this is within range of the other one, but yeah, it isn't. It's too far away. There's no reason to put the ward right here. It's just stupid. There's no reason not to put the ward right here. There's absolutely no reason. I could put it here, and it would even catch this high ground, but there's no reason to put the sentry right on top. But I didn't see him place it, but I saw him stand here conspicuously long in the map, and then I was like, okay, he probably put a ward down. But I could have gotten the ward if I put it here, so that was pretty stupid. Literally no reason. I was like, sure, but I wasn't 100% sure, because I didn't see him place it, so that was stupid. Kind of a dumb move. My items right now, I think these are great items to have on most supports. The Wand to Urn combo, in most cases, on a support is not going to let you down. Gives you 10 strength. That's 190 HP, gives you 4 agility, 4 int, gives you a little bit of everything, gives you a lot of regen. It's just really good to have. And I used my other sentry here just to make sure they didn't have a ward on the high ground, because if they do have a ward on the high ground, then they're going to know that we're here, and they'll probably show up with a bunch of heroes and go for a kill. So I'm just waiting to cast Repel on the Pudge, because I want to make sure he gets his ult off when he hooks somebody. Also, the courier flew right over the observer ward, so this is dangerous. And I think this is why the puck came to look for us, actually. So I believe he did come to look for us. And then I showed here, 100%. Puck was a little bit late. Had to kill him in that 3-second disable, so I used Purify offensively. But I messed it up, my positioning. It's hard to fit 2 heroes over there, especially with the fact that I needed to get out of the way of the Pudge so that he could actually hook. So that was a little bit, it was difficult. And that should be a pretty easy tower. So at this point our OD's net worth is ridiculously high. He started pinging me here. He was like pinging, and he didn't really say anything. What happened was that he had a blink dagger, and I didn't realize it until now. But we saw the line. If I repelled him, he could have blinked and killed line with like 4 hits or something, 3 hits. I didn't realize he had a blink, so I didn't think he could actually aggressively go there. So I just didn't repel, but I should have. And as soon as I see another hero, I repel him, because he's going to see that person too, and he's going to go for the kill, most likely. He does get the kill. So that right there is what OD lets you do, and what Omni lets you do together. There was no way that they were going to be able to react to that, essentially. They can't stop it, unless they have a diffusal blade or something. This is a little dangerous. They could have initiated and killed that guy. But I think we're considering pushing at this stage. Our net worth is so incredible compared to this. Gave him a repel first. Maybe should have done a heal. Oh, that's right. I knew his exorcism was about to end, so it would have been a waste of a heal to heal him there. But honestly, these are the kinds of advantages that you need to do when you're playing Omniknight. You have to understand, like, it all comes down to the first couple of fights, basically. If you win the first couple of fights, you end up just kind of crapping on the whole game, because your high ground push is so strong because you have magic immunity. And that's one of the really important things about it. You gotta win the first couple fights, then you have to transition into mid-game pushing. If they outgank you or something, then those are advantages you can get, but our opponents didn't really move much. In a lot of ways, they kind of gave up. Like, I actually hadn't seen Invoker all game since he left the lane. I still haven't looked at him. He hasn't been on my screen the whole game. He's got a Midas, apparently. He's got standard Invoker items. He's actually one of the higher levels on his team. But I haven't seen him a single time. I have no idea where he is. We actually see him bottom now. Didn't know that the puck would be there. Just waiting to heal him. I don't know why it shows two numbers there. It shows plus 360 twice. Some weird bug there. Queuing up an Aether Lens now because of the fact that obviously Aether Lens will give me increased cast range. That part's cool. A little bit of item dropping to make Arcanes heal a bigger percentage of his mana pool. So he gets 300 mana from my Arcanes or so instead of the 150. Because I think he had a point booster and an Aether Lens already. So that's 135. It's a little dangerous. He's kind of low HP. Thought there was a chance that he got initiated on there because the tower was almost dead, so I decided to repel him. Didn't do a very good job last hitting there, did he? Just waiting to see if Purge hooks somebody. So we have most of our towers now. We could go push top, take the tier 2. Another thing we could easily do is move OD into Roche and have OD take Roche with me. We could take turns tanking it, and I could continue to spam heals to keep people up. But we were kind of far enough ahead that I don't... We had good tower. We had good high ground with Purge, Earth Spirit, OD with a Blink, and Death Prophet. All very good at going high ground.
Radiant's top tower has fallen.
Juggle was able to take top in the meantime while we're split pushing, but we're still on the path to go high ground and take towers. Take racks, stuff like that.
Radiant's top tower is
Even the repel. I didn't think he was going to tank the tower so long. So I tried to ulti him and I was slightly too far away, so he's dead. There's no way we can heal him there. That was a pretty big mistake by me. I'm going to repel myself to remove the mana leak. It is now gone. Got a little bit of mana from the OD, that was nice. That was a pretty big mistake. I really shouldn't have let him die there. But I didn't think he was going to take the tower so much. Like, there's only so much I can do, you know? I've only got one heal and an earn, and I can't earn him if he's taking tower damage, so... put a sentry on the high ground and see if they had a ward there. They did not. And now we can kind of just stay together. I mean, our opponents are clearly not fighting very organized, so maybe this isn't the best example of a game, but... The important thing is that you need to zone your opponents. I think Invoker was still farming at this stage. I don't know, man. I feel like he kind of gave up. I'm not 100% though. I'm going to repel myself while I ward just in case I see heroes. Just to be safe. Occasional lane wards like that are nice because they're hard to predict. I kind of felt like I should be near the OD, not over by these guys, because if they went on the OD, he could easily die without my help. A couple chain stuns to an Omni Slash, or a Hex into an Omni Slash, and he dies, basically. They've sentryed my Observer Ward. I see that. This is what we should have done a while ago, which is take Roshan. I'm gonna wait to heal till Roche is in melee range. Does pure damage? Oh, good. Earn works on Roche, or against Roche damage, so feel free to earn. I probably should have been tanking this for him so he doesn't get bashed. Immediately I started running towards the Purge. I know the OD can solo do Roche, so it's probably gonna level up like twice or some shit. Got a level from it. Looks like he went from 15 to 16. That guy was already full healed. I think I just messed up. Didn't I? Maybe I'm crazy.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Healing and harm.
That first fight that we took was just such a big deal. It really mattered so much in terms of net worth. Like, they don't have terrible items. It's just, it's so hard for Puck to fight because he knows that there's going to be Earth Spirit Silence or Silence from DP, or I'm just going to heal whoever he goes on, and then his burst damage will be useless. Like, that's why heal lineups counter burst damage so freaking well, and they have almost all burst damage heroes, so how's he supposed to win against that, guys? Heal first, then repel. Just going to ulti so we take no tower damage.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Yeah, that's gold advantage right there, guys. Don't kill my boots.
Bottom tower has fallen.
I will kill my TP, however.
Dire's bottom
So yeah, that's how you racks, guys. You kind of just go high ground with OD. If I would have repelled him before he blinked in, it would have gone a little bit better, but it still worked. He didn't actually lose Aegis there. Did he? Oh no, he didn't. He's on Radiant, duh. So he didn't actually lose Aegis there. He was able to buy a Hex instead of going BKB. His net worth is incredibly high. None of their heroes, like, he's got 2 times more farm than everybody else on their team. And I know this guy is a good player. Like, the OD's a good player. He's 5.7k, but he's playing like a 6.5k player, basically. And that's because I zoned the Invoker. If I didn't zone that Invoker, if I went to pull, and I got some levels and I got some farm, then Invoker would have pressured the OD, and OD wouldn't have gotten every single last hit. Invoker would have more levels, and Invoker maybe would have been in a couple of those team fights early that we won so handily. All that stuff makes a huge difference. I'd be upset if that was my team as well. So, while this may seem like alright, this is an Ultra Stomp. And I think it's at least partially because the Invoker didn't try, because he actually went to no team fights, I think. He's level 11, and he's been in 3 assists. I don't think that guy tried very hard, but that's how you win MMR, guys. You demoralize your opponents by outplaying them. I first blooded him by his tier 2 tower as a level 2 Omniknight. Like, it's gotta be so embarrassing for that guy. Couldn't get farm in the offlane because I zoned him. He goes to do a jungle camp, and I zone him there too. Like, that's the rough life. So, anyways, items I would have bought after this, maybe... probably Ghost Scepter, most likely, so that Omni Slash didn't kill me. So definitely Ghost Scepter, maybe a Glimmer Cape, Force Staff. I bought Boots of Travel because the game was over, but Boots of Travel wasn't justified here, not very good. Finish, you piece of shit. And then I had about the worst dive ever. I tried to ulti him, but he blinked in too early, so, yeah. Run away! So yeah, that's Omniknight. Maybe not the best game in terms of length, but if you guys are just trying to learn how to play the heroes, I think spending a lot of time talking about why the heroes are good and things you're strong against and stuff like that is in a lot of ways more important than showing gameplay in a lot of cases. Assuming that you can translate that. Some people learn differently. Some learn better by getting the knowledge bombs. Some people learn better by seeing things in action. But it's pretty straightforward to play Omniknight, and a couple of those early kills and those couple early team fights really just genuinely showed the value of Omni, I feel. So. I think there was plenty of justification for this being the video upload. I hope you guys learned something from it, basically. I'm definitely going to send this to Slacks so that he stops playing early game Omniknight like shit. Because he definitely has a really shit early game idea. And just showing him the power of zoning with the Degen aura. Most players don't know to do that. They don't know to try it. And sometimes you got to force your opponents into errors. Because people will make mistakes like that. Like the Omni did. Or like the Invoker did. If you force them into that error. If I just played normal Omni, and I just sat in lane and he left and I went to pull, then yeah, maybe I would have gotten levels. But I wouldn't have killed Invoker. Alright, thanks everyone for watching. If you guys, again, want to vote for the next hero to play, go to my website, purgegamers.true.io. Go to the forums, and under the Dota 2 section, there's the poll, choose the next hero for Purge to play. Probably going to stream tomorrow afternoon, like midday, something like that. But for the rest of the day today, I have stuff to do. Alright, thanks everybody for watching. See you later, bye.